Where's everyone going? Bingo?
And that is why the Resident Evil 4 Remake is so awesome. So thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. What? Want more? Alright, fine, I'll elaborate.
What's up, niggas? I'm back.
Alright, time to get medieval on your asses. Happy feet!
What are you doing in my swamp?
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Suplex! Welcome to Suplex City! For payback, Suplex City again!
God damn, you're a big boy. You're not my type.
Leon, they're here!
Ah, the entertainment. I'll see what way to go. Jump! Little rough, don't you think? Bill me for the repairs later.
What's up, everybody? This is the Bingo Man here, and have you played my new game yet? If your answer is
no thanks, bro,
then you need to reevaluate your life.
Resident Evil 4
is an absolute masterpiece and one of the most influential games ever released. Its incredible blend of action and horror packaged with a third-person over-the-shoulder gameplay would become the gold standard for many developers to follow, and its campy storytelling, over-the-top villains, and cheesy dialogue make it one of a kind.
If you don't need me, then get off my back, old man.
Lately, Capcom has had a massive hard-on for remaking old Resident Evil titles, so it's only fitting they would do the same with 4. But remaking a game this legendary is no easy feat, and Capcom had some pretty big shoes to fill. Did they fill them with the right-sized feet, or with ganado shit? Time will tell. There are so many ways they could have screwed this remake up. The original was basically lightning captured in a bottle. It couldn't be replicated. Try as hard as they might with RE5 and 6, it just couldn't be done.
I really need you to fuck my sister.
Initially, I was extremely hyped for this remake and had no doubts the gameplay would kick ass. But then, everything changed when I heard Resident Evil 4 Remake has been edited for a modern audience. If you're a Halo fan, then this phrase, modern or broader audience, is likely sending you into catatonic shock. It often signals the end or destruction of the thing you love. So here's the million-dollar question. What did Capcom change? How exactly did they improve upon perfection? And how did they try to ruin it? Well, let's sing Kumbaya together at some Boy Scout bonfire, carry a chainsaw, and drop a cheesy one-liner straight into this. This video is sponsored by Enlisted, an expansive World War II multiplayer shooter with a huge emphasis on historical accuracy. Battle through expansive campaigns like the Invasion of Normandy, the Battle of Moscow, Pacific Theater, and countless others. Equip yourself with hundreds of different weapons, ranging from iconic classics of World War II to more experimental designs. Enlisted is available on PC, Xbox Series X and S, PS5, and last-gen consoles. Even better, it's completely free to play and cross-platform. If you want a hyper-detailed World War II game to scratch your itch and try out, then this is gonna be right up your alley. Not enough FPS games let you issue commands to squads of AI or exert control over them, but Enlisted does. And it reminds me of the OG Battlefront 2. Can't forget about all these awesome vehicles either. I mean, there's just a ton of content to enjoy at the low price of $0. And I'll even sweeten the deal. If you use my special link to register and download the game, I'll give you some special bonuses, including 3 days of premium time and several orders for troops and weapons. Use my link to download the game, and I'll see you on the battlefield, soldier. Thank you, Enlisted, for sponsoring this video.
And now for something completely different.
Games have evolved quite a bit since 2005, but RE4 is one of the few that have truly stood the test of time.
Don't come!
Initially, the game's directors didn't even want to work on this remake because they didn't think they could make it better. But after replaying the original, they found things that they could change and try to make better. I think we can all agree the biggest improvement was with the logo, as it has finally dispelled all rumors that the game was actually called For Resident Evil. What hasn't changed is the plot. Once again, we're put in the shoes of me, Leon Sex Appeal Kennedy.
You stay here with Leon. He is better with the ladies.
In his quest to rescue the president's missing daughter and definitely not have sex with her by the end.
So, after you take me back to my place, how about we do some, overtime?
No thanks, bro.
You know the drill. Ashley has been tracked to a remote part of Spain, and so the US government sends in Leon Kennedy. Leon recounts the events of RE2 and the outbreak in Raccoon City. Now, previously, the gap between Resident Evil 2 and 4 was 7 years. So many people had never played 2 before 4 came out, which meant a lot of us never got to see Leon's origins. But now the evolution of Leon's character feels much more natural, as the RE2 remake only came out 4 years ago, and it introduced a whole new audience to its game and story. Leon is also voiced by the same guy, Nick Apostolides, so it adds some consistency to his voice and portrayal. We see Leon training with some dude in a red beret, definitely no foreshadowing here. But right off the bat, I noticed a lot of parallels in the dialogue, cinematography, and pacing. Leon staring out the window with his hand on his chin. One of the cops takes a piss, the other offers Leon a smoke.
I'm sure you boys didn't come all the way out here to roast marshmallows.
Then again, maybe you did.
Once you're given control of me, the first thing you notice is how freaking gorgeous the graphics are. I'd go so far as to say these environments are prettier than Ada Wong, even though I know that's heresy. Capcom have mastered their control of the RE engine. My experience with this game was borderline flawless. I don't think I noticed any dips in my frame rate. The chickens look good, the pigs look good. What more could I ask for?
Bingo?
Graphically, the game feels just as innovative and revolutionary as it did playing RE4 for the first time in 2005. The grotesque horrors feel much more realized than before. The added detail makes things like the Garador more frightening. And if you check out the character models in the extra shop and compare them to the original, you can really see how far technology has come. It's crazy, man. You can see the individual chin hairs on Luis. It's that peach fuzz rendering. I never appreciated it before. Capcom also decided to take a much darker approach to the tone and setting, which you can clearly see by comparing the opening cutscenes and how much brighter the original is. I think it's funny how similar the Dead Space and RE4 remake are to each other. They simultaneously raise the quality bar and introduce entirely new sections and levels. Oh yes, there are quite a few surprises in store. What the fuck? What did the floor can break? Leon actually speaks Spanish this time, so I don't have to torture you all with my poor Spanish accent. And instead of the police officers getting yeeted at the same time, Leon discovers that one's been murdered in the house of this ganado. And it's a great way to introduce this new enemy type to the player.
I'll let myself out.
Yes. Yes. Boys, he's still got it. He has still got it. They did not skimp out on the cheesy dialogue at all. And after how annoying and dumb I felt Ethan Winters was, listening to Leon be both a total badass and a goober is such a breath of fresh air.
Wow, Ramon, you are really slacking on your pest control.
What's even more refreshing is the fan service. This remake was made clearly with a love and passion for the original. I could edit a 20-minute montage of every iconic line they kept from the original, every Easter egg or reference.
Hate to say it, but we're sandwiched all right.
We're sandwiched, all right.
Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.
You are nothing but an extra in my script, Mr. Kennedy. So don't get too carried away. Your biggest scene is over. You're nothing but an extra in my script, so don't get too carried
Try
away.
using knives next time.
Your biggest scene
Better for close
is
encounters.
over.
Ashley, it was you who got John quick.
You're the one who kidnapped Ashley. You got John quick, as expected.
Come back anytime.
Come back anytime.
Not only will you need cash, but you'll need guts to buy that weapon.
Not only will you need cash, but you'll need guts to buy that weapon.
What are you buying?
Ooh, what you buying?
Ah, he said it. He said that thing. Capcom almost fucking baited me into thinking the dog died. You assholes.
Hey, it's that dog. Hey, it's that dog.
They even added lightning to this scene just to make it that much more dramatic. The description on the knife says it's good for close encounters.
Bit of advice, try using knives next time. Works better for close encounters.
And it's the same knife Leon got in RE2. That slick dancing reload animation with the Chicago typewriter is back. You can even unlock my kick-ass jacket and wear it for the entire game. Shooting the lake is still a really good idea and you should definitely try it. I mean, there are countless minute details that make me so happy I get to experience this game again. The attention to detail is insane. There are some lines of dialogue that require super specific things to happen. Like if you kill the second El Gigante before Luis gets the dynamite.
What? You didn't leave any for me?
If you max out the upgrades for every single weapon in the game, the merchant makes fun of you.
I don't believe it. You went and did them all. I guess everyone needs a hobby.
Those Salazar statues kept his original design, and many music tracks are instantly recognizable, like Krauser's theme. Dude, the fucking soundtrack in the shooting range. Oh my god, did I bust a nut when I heard that. It made me want to revive my rap career. This remake is everything I wanted in terms of gameplay, and I think they've modernized it quite nicely. Leon has not been skipping leg day as he can now move and shoot at the same time. But what's cool is the player is still encouraged to stop and aim as if they're playing the original, because it makes your shots more precise. You can see how big of a difference this makes on your accuracy and crosshairs when you're moving or not. Sadly, red dot sights have been removed from most weapons, but you can get it as an attachment for certain pistols to relive the nostalgia. Being able to move and reload is such a blessing. Remember having to stop, aim, reload, lower your weapon, and then run again? No more. The flow of combat is so much more fluid. But as a trade-off, sometimes enemies take 2 headshots to stagger instead of 1. Dodging attacks in the original was always a little awkward, as you just did like this sort of stutter step to bait them into attacking. But this too feels much more natural. So upon starting the game, I was greeted with the difficulty options, and I read hardcore, which said, "This is for Resident Evil 4 veterans." Alright, let's do it, fuck it. That was a fucking scam. I got my ass handed to me constantly, especially in the opening village gauntlet. After several attempts, I just barely managed to make it through with a single bullet to my name. Guess you could say my experience on hardcore has been
A little rough, don't you think?
I also played on Xbox, and there is this issue with aiming in dead zones, which felt awkward to aim from time to time, but overall, the core gameplay and performance was fantastic. Now, am I the only one who misses QuickTime events? Maybe I'm high, but I've always felt RE4's storytelling was unique because you could never set down the controller and relax during a cutscene. Because if you did, you might get your neck snapped by some bearded hobo. So players were conditioned to keep their full attention on screen or risk repeating parts of the game. Removing QTEs from cutscenes also removes a lot of those horrific death scenes and animations. The gruesome violence in these really conveyed the severity of the threat we faced. Like, uh-oh, you didn't cut that rope in time. Now you're gonna watch Leon drown to death. Hope you're happy with your life choices. What's that? You pressed the wrong button? The game still has QuickTime events and combat, and there are some amazing new additions to the death animation department. I wish I could show them to you, but... Oh, this guy, I gotta beware of this guy. To paraphrase, Leon gets fucking murdered in this game, though one particular death scene is missing, and I wish they added it in.
Adios, Leon. Little rough, don't you think?
Game directors actually acknowledged the removal of QTEs. Their reasoning behind it, it's not as popular in today's games. I think it's because, ironically, no other game has done QuickTime events better than Resident Evil 4. So you can probably thank Call of Duty for ruining them. Luckily, in place of QTEs, the developers decided to add a fucking parry mechanic that is so awesome. Well done, lads. Your work here today has made the Chancellor a very happy man. This mechanic creates a whole new layer of gameplay, decision-making, player choice, and strategy. If you trust your instincts like Peppy Hare tells you to, you might play more aggressively, getting up close and personal. However, if you're less confident, best to trust your trigger finger and save the parry for a last resort. Although you have to keep in mind some attacks can't be parried, like grabs, but you can use the knife to bail out of these grabs. Knives are so goddamn useful in this game. You can even upgrade the knife, but there is a cost to repairing it, and durability isn't infinite. I'm pretty sure the timing for parries gets smaller on harder difficulties, so you feel like a badass when you parry a move that would have otherwise killed you in one hit. Some enemies will transform, but you can silence them and stop it. Or if you stun an enemy, you can move in for a knife kill or a melee attack. You can parry chainsaws, thrown weapons, crossbow bolts. The stiff, janky, unimpactful knife of the original is long gone. In the original, a lot of times the strategy to conserve ammo was, okay, I shoot you in the head, I run up, I kick you, and then I just knife you a bunch. Rinse and repeat. A lot of smaller fights played out like this and it wasn't terrible, but all these new systems in the remake make combat much more dynamic. You have far more options to conserve ammo. Like stealth? Hello? Did somebody say Metal Gear Solid? What's that? Leon is also a snake eater? One of the coolest examples of using stealth is that chamber with the red cultist. By sneaking through, you can almost trivialize this encounter and lower a chandelier to kill a bunch of the ganados. Even that new enemy type, the cowboy brutes, can be snuck up on and stabbed. Hell, you can do this to the Garadors too. Not to mention the bolt thrower is a silent weapon that doesn't alert other ganados. It's a fantastic rework of the mine thrower. The addition of parries and stealth adds so much to the gameplay, it's unreal. Although not everything is perfect in Bingo Land.
Greetings!
The game has some issues with AI and pathing. I noticed certain areas with doors could just straight up break the AI. And like a little kid with Game Shark, I used this knowledge to exploit certain areas, like the double Garador room. I think it's because some doors act as loading zones, and if the AI crosses a certain threshold, their programming forces them to stop attacking and just slowly walk away awkwardly. Great for a hardcore playthrough, terrible for immersion. Like, look at this poor feller. He's trapped in limbo, waiting for the sweet release of death. These issues aren't massive and only happen occasionally. Aside from that, all the enemies have been given massive overhauls. And rather than compliment every single chains, I'd say the only enemy that frustrated me was Salazar, because your windows of opportunity to attack him are so limited. Other than that, I think every single fight, every single location, and encounter in the game, it was fun. Even the more challenging sections, I died to Krauser like 10 times, still had a blast. Since you can now parry attacks and bob and weave through hordes a lot easier, enemies are more accurate with ranged weapons to compensate. Some of them also have charging attacks with like pitchforks. One enemy can grab you while another attacks you. The ganados are so expressive when they get shot or stabbed. The first time I shot a ganado while he was on the stairs and he fell down them, it just blew my mind. It's these types of like technological upgrades that made the original so impressive to me when I was a kid. This is a game I shouldn't have played as a kid, probably. And of course, Leon's badass melee attacks return, as does his signature suplex. Ganados are also a bit smarter. They'll sometimes hold their weapons up to block your shots. Remember those little face hugger bastards? Well, instead of doing nothing, now they cause ganados to become enraged and charge at you super fast, so you really gotta take them down. Fighting the enemies in this game is just so much goddamn fun. As far as your arsenal of weapons goes, it's mostly the same. There are some new guns added through, like the deluxe edition, the Skull Shaker, Sentinel 9 pistol. They added an assault rifle, a new submachine gun, the primal knife, and heavy grenades. Extra unlocks like the man cannon and Chicago typewriter return, but the only things that don't are the Plagas removal laser and incendiary grenades. I was also bummed that you don't get free refills when upgrading ammo capacity. Big sad. Capcom have proven once again they are masters of innovation when it comes to combat and AI in games called Resident Evil 4. Unfortunately, this game does not take the same philosophy of the Dead Space remake, that being, let's just add things and basically cut nothing. There are quite a few areas that have been cut. It's questionable at best and disappointing at worst. I think they remade the most important locations. In some parts I can understand being removed because maybe they were too cartoony or jank, but others like the laser room on the island, like that would have been so badass to see in the remake. Here's a list of other areas I could think of that didn't make the cut. The gondola ride in the village, a lava statue section, a village waterfall, river, and crates area, castle sewers, both ceiling trap areas. The guy on the minigun in the middle of the room. That ride on the massive pickup truck is gone. You no longer have a choice of fighting another El Gigante or the chainsaw ladies. And by far the most heartbreaking, the dumpster claw minigame. And what's that? Oh yeah, they cut out the U3 boss fight entirely. Yeah, that whole section is just nowhere to be found. One of the most iconic and difficult fights is just cut out for seemingly no reason other than to bait it in future DLC. There's something wrong with that, man. I guess there is a new boss fight to kind of make up for it, but it's another El Gigante that just throws rocks at you. But it seems like the game would have only been better if all of the areas were remade and new ones were added. And you know, changes to like the DK minecart section were pretty awesome. I was very thorough in gathering loot, treasures, and doing side quests, so a decent chunk of my time was spent backtracking. Whereas in the original, you spent less time backtracking because there were more locations. The games take roughly the same amount of time to complete, but you just feel like you're seeing more in the original. Speaking of cut content, Mercenaries just got added. It's a fucking blast. Even if there is one less character and one less location. There is no assignment Ada or separate ways, though I suppose it's alright since these weren't in the initial 2005 release, so I can give it a pass. The remake adds some new customization through charms and cases, giving you different bonuses like reduced armor repair cost. So you are encouraged to play and do well at the shooting range. And even if there weren't incentives, just hearing that song constantly is all the reason I need. I think the addition of a crafting system is very much welcome. Given that the game is a bit more stingy about items it gives you, the crafting system allows you to pick and choose things that you need more. Remember how in Village you would hunt different animals for upgrades with the Duke? Well, they expanded on this concept in this remake with full-blown side quests. I mean, they are things like, hey, go and kill this super dog, or shoot all these blue medallions, fight this golden knight, but they were all loads of fun. Despite their simplicity, I did almost every single side quest because the rewards are damn well worth it. The new currency system is fantastic. Spinels are used for exclusive upgrades you can't buy with pesetas. So you learn to ration and choose things carefully. Treasures are also way cooler. Instead of waiting eons to find that one specific gem for that one specific item, it's been streamlined. Now you get a whole bunch of gems and it's up to you to choose what shape and color you put into the treasure to maximize your returns. So customization, progression, and weapon upgrades are all fucking awesome and somehow more addicting than they were in the original. Want to learn something crazy? Did you know that Shinji Mikami wrote the entire script of Resident Evil 4 in 3 weeks? Man literally procrastinated his book report until the last possible moment, which makes it all the more impressive how he managed to write one of the most charming, hilarious, and awesome video game stories. RE4's narrative is nothing short of a miracle, and I never expected Capcom to perfectly recreate that magic. I say this to preface all my criticisms of the remake, because it's impressive how much they got right.
I am Osman Sadler, the speaker for our Lord.
Tell someone who gives a shit.
But first, let's talk about everything they got wrong. My biggest problem with the story are the villains. All of them besides Krauser feel like an immediate downgrade. I always thought
the big cheese
was super intimidating because he just stared at you most of the time and rarely talked. But now he's like a priest giving us sermons. His dialogue is neither cheesy nor campy or funny. It's just bland.
You're a shitty missionary. You know that.
Mendez didn't really need to be anything more than what he was, but he also wasn't much, so I suppose I can give this a pass. Now, I love Salazar's redesign. It is very disturbing and makes him appear more evil and menacing.
This dude looks like he lives in his basement. He looks like he never gets sun. He could possibly be a fucking vampire.
However, Capcom royally fucked up when writing this script because they decided to cut out every single radio transmission between Leon, Salazar, and Sadler. The bulk of their characterization and personality was through these radio transmissions. Hell, some of the most iconic lines were found in these moments.
I've sent my right hand to dispose of you.
Your right hand comes off?
It should keep you busy.
Can't remember the name, huh? A senior moment, perhaps.
It seems Capcom has gone the Halo Infinite route of storytelling by forcing the villains into the background for the majority of the game and having them essentially do nothing. Instead, they rely on flashbacks, visions, and shit talking through megaphones to establish their personality. Remember when you entered the castle and tried to talk with Hunnigan, but Salazar jacks the line? Well, that was to make the player feel stranded. You were cut off from your allies and your intel. These transmissions did a fantastic job of giving the villains presence. They're looming in the background and they're always fucking with you.
Say whatever you please. Die, you worm!
Salazar and Sadler would taunt Leon and foreshadow places and enemies he'd be fighting through next. It added build-up to certain encounters like the U3 and the Novistadors in the sewers. Sadler would always laugh at Leon's lame jokes instead of getting pissed off.
Oh, Mr. Kennedy, you entertain me.
Like this was all a game to him, and he never doubted that he would come out on top.
Sadler, you're small time.
Oh. Writhe in my cage of torment, my friend.
I could be wrong, but it also feels like they ditched the whole anti-American angle with the villains. Like they don't really discuss their motivations at all.
No longer will the United States think they can police the world forever.
Get rid of our American friend.
This is no ritual. It's terrorism.
Isn't that a popular word these days?
Like you, I'm American.
The American prevailing is a cliche that only happens in your Hollywood movies.
I feel like I have to go back to storytelling 101, right? For a villain to be impactful, we need to see them doing bad things. You run into Salazar like 3 or 4 times total throughout the game, while you don't even see Sadler until you're 90% of the way through. Instead of meeting Sadler in the church, we get a flashback. Instead of seeing him in the castle, we get a flashback. Also, there's gonna be spoilers, so skip to the timestamp to avoid them. So in the remake, Krauser is the one that kills Luis, and it's a very emotional scene that's done just as well as the original.
I'm not looking good, eh, my friend? And such a loss to the ladies of the world.
However, it makes more sense for Sadler to be the one to kill him because the two knew each other. Luis worked for Sadler and betrayed him. This is his punishment for that betrayal, and it makes us hate Sadler a lot more. And it also teases his eventual boss fight. You're left thinking like, what the fuck was that tentacle? And where did it go? What is Sadler going to transform into? Krauser was the one who kidnapped Ashley and started this whole mess in the first place. Like, that's enough reason for the audience to hate him and want to take him down. There's already enough implied history between Krauser and Leon. We didn't need to steal villainous actions from one bad guy to give them to another. And yes, I get that scenes like the spike trap are super cheesy and cliche, and it makes no sense why Leon wouldn't just immediately shoot Salazar. But that's not the point. It's about Salazar's presence. There's the bad guy. He sprung his trap. Now he's running away like a little bitch. Fuck that kid. Let's go get him. But in the remake, these scenes are cut. And anytime you run into Salazar, he doesn't really do anything. He just lets you meander through his castle until he wants to fight you. The worst defense is the Verdugo. Remember that awesome scene where Leon falls down the pit and says,
"Don't fall for this old trick."
This defiant act pisses off Salazar so much he completely loses his composure.
How dare you! No more games! Kill him! Kill!
And then Salazar and the other Verdugo take Ashley away. And you know some big boss fight is gonna happen. What occurs in the remake?
Well, I'll tell you. Absolutely fucking nothing.
You show up in the sewers and the Verdugo is just there for some reason. Remember those Alien 3 type cutscenes that showed the Verdugo stalking you and running down the hallways? It bashed the door behind you, forcing the player to press forward into the unknown. It's all gone. And then Leon says,
You're Ramon's lapdog.
Leon has to remind the audience what this thing is because the fight has no fucking build-up. And wait a minute, what happened to the other Verdugo? In the original, we see him fuse with Salazar to become a Venus flytrap, and he like tosses the knife back at us. You know, we see bad guys doing things. In the remake, you see him once, and then he just disappears. And if you didn't find the journal entry that explains the second Verdugo turned into the U3, then you have no fucking clue where he went. But then again, if you didn't play the original, you don't even know what the U3 is because that was cut too. It's like Capcom just said, here's one of the most iconic boss fights in the Resident Evil series, and the bad guy who sends him to fight you doesn't even mention it. What a letdown. What I also find bizarre was a lot of the cinematography. The original game had fantastic camera work and all kinds of unique angles. You were never confused about what was happening. But a lot of shots that added context were cut. Like in the Del Lago fight, there's no shot of the hook attaching to the beast. When you fight Torres in the original, we actually see his body break apart as he transforms into a monster. But in the remake, he just walks through the fire and he's already transformed. I guess they didn't want to animate it.
Hanging with you, not helping.
Hey, yo, where the fuck did you come from? This axe guy who was in the background for like 0.2 seconds? What did he use, the instant transmission technique? Again, going back to the original, when Luis and Leon are talking in the house, there's a shot of him slowly approaching. The player knows what's coming, but the characters don't.
Do something, cop! Hanging with you, not helping.
Stuff like this stands out to me because it's jarring and it takes me out of the story. What makes even less sense to me is why they decided to cut every single conversation between Krauser and Ada. That's right, they don't speak a word to each other.
That's a large thing you have there. But I don't like it when men play rough.
Yeah, I thought these two were working together with Wesker.
What's the news on our friend Leon?
He's not making it easy. The sample?
Sadler's got it. It seems he sniffed out our little game.
So like, why wouldn't they be talking together? There was tension between these two characters and they felt like puppet masters pulling the strings behind the scenes.
Just so we understand each other clearly, I don't trust you, nor does Wesker. If you try to do anything clever, I will kill you.
Is that so? You know, I met Wesker long before you.
We'll see soon enough if you did.
These conversations added some mystery and intrigue to the plot. You're not entirely sure if you can trust Ada, if she's gonna betray you or not. So when Ada does save you from Krauser, she earned your trust. This added depth between the three characters, but that's all gone now because Ada and Krauser don't ever speak to each other. I guess instead Luis was given more screen time and fleshed out, but why can't we have our cake and eat it too? They also cut the scene where Leon tries to strangle Ada. I'm not sure why. Also, the way Leon and Ada meet is far different. For starters, Leon didn't actually try to stab her. Like, if she didn't dodge this, Leon just would have killed her, which feels wildly out of character for him. In the original, he's just trying to disarm her. I also think the slow-mo was a lot cooler. I don't know, man. There's just some weird creative changes I can't really get behind. The most egregious might be how Capcom handled
the bitch in the red dress.
I think Ada's portrayal in this is symptomatic of a greater issue in the remake, that Capcom feels the need to remove anything remotely sexual or flirtatious.
Don't think too hard, handsome.
Need a ride, handsome?
Okay.
I see that the president's equipped his daughter with ballistics, too.
Let me come with you.
No, you stay here with Leon. He is better with the ladies, I'm sure.
Are you out of your mind?
I knew you'd be fine if you landed on your butt.
And they had the balls to cut out Leon's most relatable line.
Women.
I mean, to be fair, they did add some pretty incredible jiggle physics, and, you know, that's a pair of ballistics I could see myself getting lost in, but there's no romantic vibe between Ada and Leon. It removes almost all of the chemistry the two had.
I guess I changed too.
You. Leon S. Kennedy. You haven't changed. You just think you have.
What are you talking about?
Ada delivers every line of dialogue like she's a Terminator, a robot.
Have you changed, Ada? Or are you just trying to use me again?
My mission is to protect you.
And I don't know if it's the voice actor's fault or the director's, but the rest of the cast seems to put a lot more passion in it. Still, no matter how much you might dislike someone's performance, you should never hate it enough to harass that person. Don't be that guy. I do prefer the original voice acting, and I think some lines are delivered better.
Why are you helping us?
Because it makes me feel better. Let's leave it at that.
Why are you? It makes me feel better. Let's just leave it at that.
Still, every other character besides Ada, and probably Sadler, has got great voice acting. So those are my complaints with the story. Luckily, it's been improved in many other ways. Leon and Ashley are the highlights of this remake.
Can you stand?
Where's Luis?
Their relationship has so much more depth than before, largely because the two now banter back and forth during gameplay, something that in the original only happened in cutscenes.
Hey, Leon, there's some armor. Bet you could use it like a bulletproof vest.
Little old-fashioned for my taste.
Too bad. I think you'd look pretty dashing.
One of my favorite parts is how Ashley tried to flirt with me in the dining hall. For a split second, I almost considered sleeping with her.
So, you do a lot of missions like this?
Well, yeah, but I'm not used to having such good company.
I owe you an apology. I wasn't really familiar with your game and...
Is that a compliment?
Take it however you want.
You know, little things like having her cheer you on in the shooting range or sitting in the background, it makes Ashley and Leon's relationship a lot more intimate.
I would like you to hand the girl there over to me. Now.
Yeah, fat chance, Ramon. The girl's just fine. With me.
She is far more likable and well-rounded this time, and less of a damsel in distress that you have to babysit because she's incapable of dropping off of a 2-foot cliff without screaming for you to catch her. Ashley's role in the story is much more interesting, as are the changes to this world-famous escort mission. She doesn't have a health bar anymore, so her dumbass gets killed a lot less. Ashley can take one hit but then needs to be revived because she has the ray gun. So you don't have to ration your healing items for her anymore. You can smoke all these herbs yourself. The changes to the gameplay pretty much remove any frustration the original had when it came to escorting Ashley. People have complained at great length that she's not wearing a skirt and you can't look up it. But to be honest, this was always out of character for Leon since he rejects her advances at the end. It also wouldn't really mesh well with the changes to dialogue, right? Because if you could just interrupt their conversation and just be like, hey, Ashley, what's your pussy look like? That would just be unnatural. Ashley feels more like a companion and less like a hindrance. And Leon has basically remained the exact same type of character, but maybe a little bit more brooding. There's one scene that always bothered me in the original when Ashley started bleeding and then she pushes you away, the man who rescued her.
You all right?
I'm fine! Leave me alone!
Ashley, wait!
And she runs into the most obvious trap, like she's a Scooby-Doo character. Some scenes like this one are handled much better in the remake. I'm surprised how much I loved Leon in this. Paul Mercier is obviously irreplaceable, but the new guy, you get an A+ from me, brother.
Nighty-night. Nights. I think you need to chill out. God damn. That was almost a pancake. Talk about sticking the landing.
Suffice to say, the storytelling in the original was created with blood magic that made it oddly alluring, not cringe, campy, yet scary and serious at times. It's not surprising they couldn't replicate it the exact same way. While most of the villains lost a lot of important screen time, at the very least, it feels like that was transferred to characters like Luis and Krauser. Initially, I didn't really like Luis because he comes across like a douchebag, whereas in the original, the first time you meet him, you guys kind of bond over being a cop.
You put your life on the line. Nobody really appreciates you enough for it. Being a hero isn't what it's cracked up to be anymore.
But maybe this was just because I was attached to the character through nostalgia. He's fleshed out a lot more in the game. You see pictures of him working with Las Plagas and the science team, and he has a very tragic end to his arc that is just as emotional, if not more so, than the original. He also joins you through the mines, and there's a ton of banter between him and Leon. It's awesome. Krauser has also been upgraded to feel more like a mentor, with his and Leon's past getting a lot more fleshed out. In the original, when you kill Krauser, you don't really feel that bad, but in the remake, you kind of do. And I respect that change.
I dreamed well. Leon.
Overall, the story has the same broad strokes. Some of the new changes are great, and others make you scratch your head asking, why did they cut that? Capcom had a chance to expand and make the story of Resident Evil 4 even better than the 2005 version. In some ways, they succeeded, and in others, they failed. And don't forget to download Enlisted using my special link in the description and pinned comment. And let's see each other on the battlefield. In conclusion, the Resident Evil 4 remake is much like the Dead Space remake. Both are an awesome reimagining upon a timeless style of gameplay. And both screwed up or misunderstood aspects of the story. It's still a wildly entertaining game from start to finish. The new Mercenaries mode is hella fun, and the game has a ton of replay value. What I appreciated the most, and what surprised the hell out of me, was the amount of fan service. And when it comes to gameplay, I can't think of a single negative change they made. However, the bizarre changes to the story, villains, and cinematography feel wildly out of place. And that is why the Resident Evil 4 remake is so awesome. But what did you think of the remake? What was your favorite and least favorite part of it? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Go follow me on Twitter to see my dumb memes and opinions. Follow me on Instagram to see hot pictures of myself. And join my public Discord server. Alright everyone, that's all I got for today. This is Leon Sex Appeal Kennedy signing out. Bingo!